we move into item 9, old business. And the first element of old business is the Rice and Arano Historic Homes. And I'm going to point to an item in your package on your desk today, a letter from one of our constituents, Becky Steinbruner, that expresses worry and concern about the future stature and standing of both the Arano and the Rice houses. It's old business because the Arano and the Rice houses have been continually and recurringly on our agenda over the last few years. And to just update everyone, those are the two homes that are located on the rail trail and has been purchased by the RTC. Okay, we were told at an earlier time that the intention was not to destroy, but rather to preserve these two buildings on the historic registry. The current letter in your packet expresses worry that Ms. Steinbruner believes the homes will be torn down. Okay, so this letter came to Matthew, myself, and Kevin because it's his district. And Matthew, I'm going to turn the meeting over for you to tell us what you've discovered.
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that Becky brought something to the fore, and that is a inconsistency in the environmental document that's very extensive and includes a section on the trail segment number 12, where these two structures are located, Arano and Rice. The discrepancy is that in a graphic, it shows that the historic resources will be removed or destroyed or modified or whatever. But then in the text, in the report, the written report, it says they're going to be left exactly as they are. So which one do you believe? So I went to the source. Always go to the source. And I spoke to them about it and laid it all out and said, which of these do I believe in? And I got a call back from Sarah. Last name escapes me.
Kristen?
No, it starts with an M.
I can find her.
Anyway, it's not all that critical. She's an engineer with the Regional Transportation Commission. This is her project. And I'd like more of her or something like that. And she explained to me, no, the graphics is incorrect, the text is correct. We're not taking anything out. And that was the end of it. I thought, okay, good. I'm satisfied that you're not going to be taking out these two structures. While that's going on, I decided, well, I'll do a little flyover via Google to see what's there. And yeah, you can see, and then you can see what they look like from the sides by dropping a little yellow guy down onto the street. All of a sudden, you've got a street view. And I'm looking at the Rice house, and it's an amazing little place. It's cute as bugs here. And then there's this catastrophe of the Arano house with shed roofs sticking out in 360-degree direction. I'm wondering, how did that get onto the historic list? And I said, it's not because of its historical value, or not historical value. It's not because of architectural value. It's because of the historical value, because it was the first post office and the first baby born in Aptos was born there, that sort of stuff. But to look at that building and think that it has historic value, architectural value is beyond me. But then you have to temper that approach. I tempered my approach about it by thinking it's a historical structure. But in my opinion, they have made a mess out of that building in terms of the aesthetics. Its usefulness is probably very, very high on the Richter scale. Looks like a lot of either residential or commercial or whatnot. So the building's been repurposed. Unfortunately, it's been repurposed with no regard for its architectural originality. Anyway, I'm I'm good with what I got from Regional Transportation Commission. They're not gonna take the building down. I did broach another issue with Sarah, last name.
Her last name is Christensen.
No, it's not,
That's what I've got here.
Zarino.
Okay. She's the one that,
Oh, I might be talking about another.
that's Sarah from the Arano Rice Houses.
Sarah?
Sarah Christensen.
Okay, maybe it was Sarah Christensen. Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Fernando. I think you're right. Yeah,
I think the other person, the person who referred you to her is Rachel Morricone.
there you go.
And I understand because the
Okay.
two,
There you go.
they're colleagues on the RTC.
So I had pointed out that, if it's necessary for moving a structure, it's all that property is owned by the Regional Transportation Commission. And I was thinking, and it's all up to the commission and it's up to the Regional Transportation Commission, but if push came to shove and we needed some space for the rail trail project, moving the Rhino house 10 feet over or something like that, or 20 feet over. That would be something that HRC potentially could consider.
We surely, I perceive we would support that. That would be keeping the structure.
Do regardless.
But you gotta know over here.
It would serve no purpose to move that house, and right now it's currently as far away from the rail trail as possible.
Okay, so that's totally irrelevant from the project then.
Yeah, any way they move it would move it closer to the rail trail, which wouldn't make any sense.
No,
Did I
so
know,
the Rice House is closer.
Right house.
There you go.
did I not read in the correspondence back from them that their intention is to sell both properties after the trail is completed?
I never got anything like
Okay,
that.
I thought I read that somewhere.
So I take comfort in knowing that, there are no plans for demo on either project.
That's what they told us.
I do have great concern. So look, the Rice House was recently renovated. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that house is gonna do just fine
Yeah,
through all of
yeah,
this.
yeah.
As you mentioned, the Arano House, full disclosure, I lived there for 3 years. They've broken down.
You lived in the
House.
Arano house for 3 years?
I did. If you can look at different parts of the house and say, that was updated in the 60s, that was updated in the 70s, this was done in the 80s. It is a mismatch of.
Patchwork.
Are you talking about the additions,
Not only the additions, but the inside, I mean, plumbing is bad, the electrical needs work, the roof is probably needs to be redone. It's in pretty bad shape, but it is the oldest structure in Aptos. Most likely, that's another discussion for, it is one of the oldest, I will say. Right now it's considered the oldest, but anyway, it has so much historic, importance that it cannot be destroyed unless it is.
What is it being used for now?
It was residence, the
All of it.
last, all of it.
Including the shed additions?
The shed additions are residence,
And
yes.
it's owned by the Regional Transportation
It
Commission.
was recently purchased by the RCC, yes. So those little add-ons that look like sheds, they're residents, believe it or not. The guy who owned it before, he rented them out. They're plumbed, they've got power,
Yeah.
they're bathrooms and kitchens,
Yeah.
I mean, they're small. but
How
they
many
were-
units do you suppose there are combined in?
So there's the main house and then there's,
At least.
I wanna say at least 3 add-ons. And then Aptos Glass used to be the commercial building in the back. They recently moved into another historic building in Aptos up the road a bit. I don't think anything has replaced that. So anything that is off of the Arano house, including the commercial property and even the little add-ons, I mean, those could be technically removed. They're not
Right,
considered part of the original
Right,
building.
right.
No problem with that, but yeah, as long as the original building remains intact, I have no problem. My biggest concern is, how dilapidated it already is and who's going to be keeping an eye on it and maintaining it over. I don't know how long this is gonna take for them to do.
well,
2 years to start the project, 3 years to
RCC is the
complete it.
landlord, right?
Right, so who's gonna keep an eye on them? I mean, are we going to,
They're gonna have to deal with, building officials when it comes to plumbing and electrical.
Right, they're gonna require permits for any modifications they would do.
What if they're not planning modifications? What,
That's right. It's just going to be, it's just gonna be a maintenance issue for them. That's it.
okay. So who monitors that maintenance? Like, does someone go in once a year and say this still?
I trust that the RTC doesn't want to, risk a liability issue. And that they'll do the basics. But as far as the aesthetics and architectural style and whatnot,
Yeah,
I think the best thing to do for that building, realistically, from a inventory sense, is get rid of the units that have been attached to the main unit.
That's the plan.
And then, other than that, what do you have left? You have the original rectangular shape,
yeah,
two-story house.
yeah,
Shiplap siding and basic A-frame,
right, right.
not A-frame, it's not hip either. What's the other type?
Well, would that come before us though, then, when they got ready to take those
Yeah,
sheds off and what they would be
Sure.
doing to the building to
yeah.
get it
we would
back
look at- We
into,
would look at it.
so they would, okay.
Would there be a better spot on that property for that house, or is it? It seems like it's stuck all the way up to the edge of the property.
It is, and I think because the little driveway that comes up that area
Opposite
it used to be Wharf Road, and it was a road that went all the way down to Castro's.
To the wharf. Yeah,
So when it was built there, it made sense.
yeah,
I think in theory, when all is said and done with the rail trail, if they're removing all of the other properties,
yeah.
it probably would make sense to push it back a little bit closer to the rail trail when all is said and done. But currently, right now, there is no other place for it to go.
If you owned all that property, the Rice House, the glass business
Yeah.
building, the Reno house,
Yeah.
Rano house, et cetera. And yet all the money you wanted, you could move that building perhaps somewhere else on the property, so that it's sitting in a proper fashion relative to Rice House.
Yeah,
And then you'd have an extra chunk of real estate where you could build a 3 or 4 story residential unit.
I don't know if you could build a new residential unit there. I think those were grandfathered in. It's definitely a commercial property now.
We allow residential and commercial property.
Well, I guess that's true.
Based on our housing element update.
Yeah. In theory, then you could, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really, it looks like it's in an awkward place, but if you were to go there and see it in person,
Yeah.
it's kind of tucked away, like it's really not
Tucked
in
together, that's
that
right.
of an inconvenient
Right,
area. And if you were to remove everything else, it does kind of open up some space between the Arano and the Rice House, which would make for, either great like parking for, I know parking is already an issue for that property. The businesses there are, there's always parking issues, but you could also build things that will
okay.
be a better resource for the community when the rail trail is there. I think it's gonna be a great stopping point on the trail
Yeah,
for folks to stop off and
okay.
so, yeah. Any number of possibilities, but to answer your question, it could be moved 10, 20, 50 feet into a different location if the plans were right.
Yeah. All right. I mean, it's not like it's gonna happen necessarily, but.
Okay, so I believe, does anybody have anything to contribute further to the rights and around the discussion? Let's consider it complete for today. I don't think we have continuing business with that, so we'll retire it for now.
Yes, real quick, would you like me to respond to Becky? To her email?
We've done that already. I didn't copy you. Apparently
Yeah.
not.
No, I didn't see
I
it.
just, I told her that I spoke with Rachel and Sarah and that I was
Okay.
assured that the written message in the report stands,
Okay.
and the graphic.
Could you forward me that reply, just so I can have it on file, yeah, because I don't think I was copied. Thank you.
Good kind of.
Good.
There's no reason why I can't forward it to everybody. So I'm gonna forward it to Kevin and company. Redmond House update.
Very good. Okay, I'd like to start this discussion on the Redmond House update. And I'm going to name the item below it, History Fair, as my way of starting the Redmond House update. The Redmond House, as we all know, is a continuing item that comes up on our agenda. And it's the continuing story of this, the tragic dilapidation of a treasured building. Okay, and there is gestures of hopefulness, but the question is, how do we make an objective evaluation of what the range of possibilities is for the Redmond House? Okay, let's segue to the history fair. On Saturday, May 18th, we attended and participated in the history fair. While we were there, it was brought to our attention right at the beginning of the fair that there was a young man who had a booth of his own. And the subject of the booth was the Redmond House. Wow, boy, howdy, where's that coming from? So I walked over and I met Jacob Stone. Jacob Stone was a PhD doctoral candidate at UCSC in the archaeology department. And he had written his doctoral dissertation and spent 8 years studying the Redmond House.
Wow, 8 years.
8 years. He went straight for his doctoral from his bachelor's.
Deep dive.
And did the deep dive. And he said that 7 is average and that it was just the quantitative amount of work he had to do. It took an extra year. Among what he discovered, he approached it as an archaeologist first and as a historian second. He has 55 storage boxes worth of uncovered artifacts from the property, most of those artifacts being items that belonged to Japanese families. Okay. Now, from our own knowledge of the Redmond House, we know that a Japanese family occupied the home. They purchased it in the 1930s, the Hirahara family, and they farmed the adjacent land and used the adjacent barn. But let's also remember that the Hirahara barn was used as the reentry point for the Japanese community returning to Watsonville from internment. And that is likely where many of these architectural items come from, okay? Where we're talking about hundreds of families coming through that property and staying there for some duration of time. So when people move, they lose things, they drop things. And there are 55 boxes of artifacts. And no one in the Hirahara family who has been contacted wants to own them. And they're being stored in a collection at Cabrillo College. Okay. So we've got this doctoral candidate and we've got our big issue, the Redmond House. And finally, there has emerged in the first time ever since William Weeks had that building designed, there is an expert on the building. Okay, wow. All right. Very intelligent, very cooperative, positive individual in our doctoral candidate, Jacob Stone. We networked, we spent a lot of time talking together. He and I made a plan to reconnoiter after the meeting and we exchanged contact information. And 2 weeks later, I took him out to lunch. The purpose of my taking him to lunch was the following. I wanted him to submit his dissertation to the heads of county government. And I wanted him to leverage on the factual information that the importance of a building inspection to determine what the possibilities and potential are. At one end, demolition. At the other end, as suggested by several people, complete restoration and turning it into a community center or something else. Okay. So we succeeded. Last week, Jacob forwarded his dissertation to Carlos Palacios, to Matt Machado, who is the director of this department, and to Matthew as the expert, the historic resources analyst. So we went down the chain to the proper three people. And Matthew has a copy of the entire dissertation. It's 350 pages. Okay, and it discusses the architecture, the history, the conditions, the culture, and current status of the building. Okay. It's pretty horrific over there because they have not maintained a closed cyclone fence preventing access and egress. And what you have surrounding the footprint of the Redmond House are various tents, broken down RVs, and it is a little random community. I'm gonna guess that there's 15 people living at the edge of the property across.
Now,
Yeah, right now. Yeah, it's a little tricky. You don't feel, there is not a safe feeling going there. And so, the inspection would be step one. I particularly believe from what I've heard, Jacob will not walk into the building. It is an unsafe building to be in. Okay, Jacob's intention is to see the building preserved because that's the proper intention. His realistic estimate is that an inspection will likely deem it only a tear down. But we're all guessing. And
But burn down, you might be more exciting though.
Yeah.
Fire department.
right, well, there's several different ways that could go. It could be donated to the fire department and used for exercise.
Yeah.
But questions that have come up to this commission before, where we said, well, we really don't know. Well, we now know, okay? The banisters are gone. The mahogany is gone. The wainscoting has been ripped. The stairs aren't there anymore. Okay? All of those things that happen to an old building have already happened to the Redmond House.
Ancient story.
Yeah.
now, isn't it propped up by pallets?
Beams, big fat.
Okay, because from the,
They raised it, they lifted it off the ground, but they ran out of money in the middle of it. Okay, Rob Edwards and them, 20 years ago, the people from Cabrillo that were working on that project, they ran out of money, couldn't get the rest of their funding together. And with the most sincere intention, they had to walk away from it. I don't pretend to know the detail and would not want to be held responsible for the accuracy of my information, but I do know that the intentions are accurate.
Mhm,
A
right.
real sincere effort was made.
Oh, yes, no, absolutely.
And the building was in far less disrepair in 2005 than it is now. Let's recognize that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, it appears to me as though, well, candidly, I attended a 4th of July party and had the privileged opportunity of cornering Carlos Palacios, our CAO, at Melody's party, at the CAO party on Thursday. And he heard in no uncertain terms from me, please, I beg you, please, tell Matt an inspection of the Redmond House will save us all. And Carlos whispered to me, he said, Driscoll's has expressed an interest in turning it into a community center.
Well, it means they would tear it down though.
What it means is that the inspection is more important than ever. Let's just take one baby step at a time. I believe the inspection will prove out the whole future for that property. And so, We have done everything that we can do shy of one thing, and that would be for the commission to generate a letter to the CAO saying that based on the dissertation being available and more information on the Redmond House being revealed, that we'd like to request an inspection.
You're gonna send that to the CAO?
Well, I'm suggesting we could, if this commission would want to. Okay, I'm bringing it up. Does anybody want to float a conversation on this?
I know that we've been discussing this for,
30 years.
you know, I mean, as long as probably this commission's been in
Sorry, to say
existence.
there's the.
Yeah,
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, it sure is, yeah.
and
Help shape it.
I believe that poster was part of the campaign in 2005. Let's see if there's a date on the poster.
Probably.
look at the banner up on top.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's, they hung on the house.
Let's,
That's when it was savable.
But yeah, and I
I remember that.
personally, I'm really tired of us going around and around and around and around and not really taking any steps forward. And I think we can only make recommendations. So I think this is something we definitely should do. I strongly advocate that we get something forward in putting together this letter and requesting an inspection. So we know where to go, what's the next step, and hopefully by the time that is done, because we know it won't be done like next week.
would you kindly float that as a motion that we can put on the
Yeah.
table, have a short conversation and pull it together?
Yes. I make a motion that the Historic Resource Commission comprise a letter requesting that to Carlos or to Matt Machado.
What would be your advice?
To the appropriate person, let me put it
Address it
this
to
way.
both of them,
The appropriate person.
To the appropriate person,
Figure
and
out.
you'll determine that. Very good.
that,
You need
and
both.
Yes,
that an inspection be done at the Redmond House. And that the, findings be sent to the Historic Resource Commission.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Does this require any further discussion? Who would be sending the letter? Would that be coming from me or would that be coming from you, Matthew?
It won't come from me.
Right, and you, excellent.
I'm, keep in mind, my primary task here is to take care of the administrative stuff.
And, yeah, and the council as in protocol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good, okay, okay, so the letter would be, can we modify the motion to include that it would be some public sharing?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Is that okay with you, Kevin, as a second?
Right.
Okay, great. So we have a motion that I will write a letter to the appropriate county management requesting a inspection of the Redmond House based on the presentation of the dissertation and the request of the disserter.
And it's just a letter of request for an inspection. We're not making any recommendations at this.
That's right.
Oh, no, that's right, just, yeah.
This is
I
Gary.
just wanted to clarify.
An objective request for an objective inspection
Yeah,
to make any further determinations after that.
great. Yeah, I do second that.
Yeah, that's great. This is hard progress right here. Okay, can we call for the vote, please? Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Newhouse, Commissioner Orlando, Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
and Commissioner Pearlman, aye. Okay, item B is great. Item C, the history fair. So on the 18th, we did it. Guys, we
One
did it.
last
Yeah,
question
yeah,
before we move on.
of course.
think Matthew mentioned something about Driscoll possibly wanting to.
I mentioned
You
that.
mentioned that. It's not a Driscoll property though, is it? With the-
No. What he said to me, I used the word Driscoll with you. What he said to me was, in the last 6 months, Miles Ryder has expressed some interest in the Redmond House as a project. Miles Ryder has just retired as CEO of Driscoll's and is maybe considering this as a personal project. Maybe that was what I was hearing a glimpse of, something to do in his retirement.
Okay.
I can't even imagine.
Or maybe he's partnering with a nonprofit.
Or maybe he has a business partner in mind who has a commercial venture for that building. Don't know.
Okay,
But we do know that we're talking with the people who have primary interests in Watsonville property and the money to do what they want. So
yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because you're Driscoll out there.
I thought, my interpretation, and this is a personal interpretation, I can't represent any other person, especially certainly not any administrative officers of the county. My sense was that his response was supporting the idea of the inspection, that this would take it a bit further for people like Miles.
Got it.
Because we know nothing to
Yeah.
have that inspection.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So can we put on the October agenda, the Redmond House again, and you can update us on the status of this letter?
Yeah, we'll have a copy of it.
So if you've heard anything back or,
It'll be under old business.
I'm gonna get it right out because the timeliness of having it be as close to the dissertation as possible is helpful. So while it's fresh on their mind, I'll probably read it today or tomorrow.
Good. And I recommend you send it to Matt Machado, copy the CAO.
Yeah.
Because Matt is in charge.
That's right. That give him,
Community
he's the authority on he doesn't need Carlos's approval to get the inspection, but he wants Carlos to be updated, so I'm helping.
Yeah, good.
Okay, very good. Genuine progress there on the Redmond House. Okay, the history fair was great. What I really appreciated was, the components brought together by the different people, because everything fits so nicely. And we were all, happy to be there. We were well received. The value of the banner, I think, proved itself. And the selection of the matching tablecloth, the execution of the panels. I want to thank everyone. I was very proud to be there. I thought that we looked as good or better than any other booth at the entire fair. So my intention was not to be the new guys like we were the year before, but to be, we're experienced now. It was also very kind and thoughtful to put our table adjacent to the City of Santa Cruz Historic Resources table, so that there was a collectivity in our community, and we were next to Joe Michaelak and Don Lauritsen. So, and the blue plaque thing kind of floats between all of us as well. So, a good day. I thank everyone. I look forward to next year's fair. And Matthew, you were out of the room in an earlier moment when we discussed this, but Kevin brought in the materials, and could they be stored in these offices? There is storage place where the panels and the banner can be kept
Yeah,
as a central location.
yeah. It'll have to stay in my area.
I don't want to mess up your tidy
My
area.
feng shui is good. My feng shui can take a hit.
I will say, I would normally have no problem storing it in our garage, but we're doing some remodeling or it's turning a mess.
And if it's put underneath something and something else is put on top of it, then who knows when we'll find it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so, I would say this, our intention should remain consistent. I think that we should consider ourselves a fixture and a core element of the Santa Cruz History Fair. This was our third year, and in our third year, I think that we shined, and it's easy for us to do it. Let me suggest to you now that it would be very nice to have a new theme for next year. And so if people want to start dawdling with the idea, what we did originally, that was very nice, is we had photographs of 8 different properties. And you had to guess a fact about each property. There was a question, there were 8 questions. So for instance, there was a picture of the Davenport jail, a photograph of the Davenport jail. And the question was, in the 22 years that the Davenport jail operated, how many prisoners were held in the jail?
Ooh, you know that one.
And the answer was 2. But,
I thought it was 0.
yeah, it was, no, there were 2 people put in there. I think both of them were overnight drunks, something like that.
Oh,
Well, there were 2 boys who were held there because they had stolen a horse, kind of like a silver right kind of.
Yeah.
Those 2 here overnight when their parents. Their dad came down.
that was the extent of it?
Yeah, well, there were several drunks who were held there, but nothing official. They would just be stuck on one of the bunks. The door was unlocked and they could, once they sobered up, they could just walk home. But the 2 boys were from San Mateo County, so they had to kept them in Davenport until they could get collared by
Did
their.
you grow up in Davenport?
I did, yeah.
I remember, I went to school at UC Santa Cruz with a guy whose family, his first name is Chris, his last name I keep forgetting, tall guy, real tall guy. It'll come back to me. But he lived there for many years, and I think he still owns property there. Chris Rankin. Ring a bell?
It doesn't, but.
Okay.
Do I recall that your mom moved to Davenport when she was like 4 years old or something? like that?
She was more like. Over 14, but she'd been living in Bonnie Doon.
Oh,
Then moved to Davenport because my grandfather was a PG&E lineman. He got transferred up there, and then Bonnie Doon.
interesting. Great, okay,
I will say for the history fair, just to kind of go back on an earlier comment also, we had several people stopping by to talk to us. I think our display was interesting. I think it was a great job bringing the Hershey Kisses, certainly lured some people over to our table. That was a great idea. People did ask how they can volunteer, how they can help us, and I had to give them my personal business card for the Aptos History Museum in case they wanted to contact us. So we definitely need to have some sort of printable contact information for next year's fair for people who want to learn more about us or how they can contact us.
Well, that's what our $400 is for.
Right.
But if we give people a brochure or a card, the card may be name specific, like Kevin Newhouse, or not.
Whatever it may be, even if it's just Historic Resources Commission and then just our website.
Right.
I don't know if we have like a general email address that,
No, we
Don't
don't
have
have
anyone or
anything
anything?
address. We have,
Couldn't make one.
it would be it would be my address, and then I'd have to.
Right.
Okay.
Throw it out to you guys.
Okay, so when they talked about volunteering, were they volunteering for the history fair specifically or to help us with our
help
work?
us with our work.
So again, either because we're getting probably a full agenda, but at some point we should talk about that.
Mhm.
You know, whether it's at a future meeting or part of maybe 1 or 2 topics at a special meeting, but where we could really get into it and and think and brainstorm,
Yeah.
you know,
and
things.
photographing the inventory would be a
Mhm.
perfect. That would be a perfect project.
Right, but we need to put together then some instructions
Right.
and
Right.
give a list and that
And-
kind of thing,
Do
so,
do a little 1 hour training before
so,
we send them out.
yeah,
We
so
could create
something to talk about.
we would monitor, so you wouldn't have to.
That's a good idea.
Just saying.
If it's legal.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh,
We have to check, we
there
have to
is-
check, because there's this thing with the .gov and for anything that's business for the county.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so,
But that's not a big deal. If I get an email or 2 or 3 or 10 in one day, I just blast it to you guys.
and it's not like it's gonna be that. Yeah, one a year.
well, I can see a surge and a rising in members of our community being interested in preserving history right now in the face of a vastly changing Santa Cruz
Yeah.
profile.
Yeah.
So this is gonna polarize people. And some people, the way they're gonna be reacting to it is, I don't wanna forget about the past. I wanna remember our roots. I'm connected to this community for 50 years now, blah, blah, blah. So, I would expect our interest in volunteerism to go up. And that's a good sign.
I can also imagine, you could create an email account that's like a Gmail. That way you all could have access to it.
Yeah, that's what was,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but we weren't sure
But-
if the,
No, especially since for volunteers, I think that should be fine.
Yeah.
We couldn't create a HRC email and then have, you know, or volunteers manage it, but if it's a Gmail. That,
Maybe we can look into that and get some clarification for the next meeting, kind of decide what to do,
I'll verify HRC Gmail.
what our options may be. Because then we also have to be careful, I don't think it would ever come up, but there is also Brown Act. In terms of like
That's what I-
communication and
yeah, if there's one person handling the inbox,
then it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's, I think, I forget, the 3/5. If there's more, like, if 3 of y'all are together,
It's-
then that's.
yeah, any
Yeah,
two
it's like-
commissioners can meet. Once 3 meets, it's a majority of the commission. By being a majority, that makes it a formal meeting,
Mhm.
and formal meetings must be open to the public.
Right.
But in terms of one person managing an inbox,
Not a problem.
Okay,
Okay, so, thank you everyone for your participation in the history fair. And Matthew, do we have to revisit the demolition permits? Did we cover that?
yeah, I can tell you in 2 sentences. I've done digging around in various jurisdictions to see what they've done from coast to shining coast. And I am now thinking about who I pilfer language from to create our own demolition by neglect. You know, when the wheel's already invented, there's no reason to invent a new wheel, so.
Well, we'll be covering this under goals too, right? Because I think it's
That's,
three,
if it's under
3B.
demolition by neglect, yeah.
yeah, I think it's 3A, demolition,
yeah.
demolition by,
And then the next one, converting hard copy of historic inventory to PDF. We're working on it. Donovan, our new, is he an intern or full-time employee? Full-time employee is assisting Fernanda to get this thing going. We had, you know, when we met last year. Last year or early this year, either way. No, it was last year when Annie was still here, we were talking about, you know, a hard deadline for getting this thing done. And reality bit us.
Yeah.
And the workload and the housing element, like, oh, all hands on deck with housing element, okay. So, you know, it's the way it works. You have all these projects, and then all of a sudden, something that's been kind of languishing a little bit pops up to the fore, and it's gotta be done in 10 months, and it takes 8 staff people to pull it off. But that's the nature of the housing element. We finally got certified, and then when we could, go back into our regular list of tasks that each of us are responsible for, we'll go back and try and do some more work on those. So anyway, she's working with Donovan on item 9E. And then segue to 9F, take new photos of all the historic inventory structures. We've already discussed that. So it's redundant to our previous item.
Correct.
And we want to move that forward as fast as possible. Then we go to 9G.
Correct. Okay, now on the goals, we usually each have a packet, an updated goals packet, but I don't think we have one for today. So, we'll be following Linda very carefully as she
And-
does this month's update.
You got the slides. I was expecting you to put up the slides.
Slides.
Well, that's okay, we can probably talk.
We can, is it saved in
The
the?
slides, did you forward a copy?
I think I did way back when I was expecting to come to the April meeting. Cause I sent, I think both the slides and the spreadsheet,
So that would be the last week of March.
so. Well, while she's doing that, I can just,
Is that matrix that we used in the April meeting, the most current one? After you and I had a conversation last week?
yes, because, these spreadsheets, and I just printed out the four goals we're talking about.
Go to.
And because the last meeting I was at was the
Can we-
December, that's
Right.
kind of where we
Yep.
stopped.
Go to HRC. Go to meetings. Go to April 2024, yeah, okay,
Yeah, there, P, the bottom one, yeah,
PowerPoint presentation.
there we go.
Yes, so to answer your question, yes, it's on the screen.
You guys are slick.
Okay,
Hey,
so,
Fernanda, you just covered him real good.
okay, so you're going
Thank you,
to,
everyone. Thank you, everyone.
oh, shoot, that's the one of Alba, which back then, oh, there, pop that one up.
Oh, I see, boom.
That's the picture of what the school looks now.
Beautiful.
So that's what the Park and Recreation is getting from the school district to determine.
It's a very
What they're gonna do
natural
is-
architectural style.
Let's get out of that. Bob Burton, photo by Bob Burton. Oh,
So,
I know a Bob Burton.
this, go down, the 7, look at 7. No,
No, we're looking for the matrix. Let's go
Yeah.
back to the folder.
let's go back.
Okay, go to agenda packet.
Let me stop sharing this one, this one.
Agenda packet. PowerPoint goals, action, right there,
Okay,
March 18th.
okay, that's what's on mine. Remember I asked you about changing the date at the top,
Okay,
because that is from our last,
no, leave that.
no, I'll update all this for our next.
Leave that because we're in the April meeting agenda, so just leave it as it
So
is.
that would have been it.
Okay,
So the first two for the new ones, and this won't be shared anymore. But what this is a review of the goal tasks that were approved at the last meeting, of which that was December 11th. And that what the board's objective is to review each of the goals, determine if that goal or action item is complete, document it as such, and then if it has been completed, it goes to archive status, of which that is Matthew's purview, to keep all of our archived goals, or to determine if we need to do any more activity.
Mhm.
Or or it's not on there, but if, at this point, we've done as much as we can, but we're going to have to wait due to, either maybe the Board of Supervisors or funding or whatever. So we're going to, kind of like the Mills Act. It's more, put on hiatus for a bit. The next one. And then for this presentation, we're going to be reviewing those goals. The goals that have moved to future meetings, number 5 and 11. Number 5 is the Mills Act. And then the ones that were closed is number 7, 8, and 12, and then not requiring any activity is number 4 and 14.
what are they?
Well, see, that's what my plan was, or my strategy is that at the January meeting, we would go through every single goal to do an update.
Okay.
So that everybody know, and then moving forward would be only the ones that were active.
That's.
And that's-
You just described 4 or number 14?
No, that was the overview of how I would approach them. But because we did not have a January meeting and because of and I didn't come to the April, and I looked at the agenda, it did not look like there was gonna be enough time. So how about at the October meeting? I end up doing that overview of all of them so that everybody has a status of what we have as basically open goals, whether there's any activity or not. And then that will include any new goals if we determine we want to add a new goal at this meeting. So goal number 1 is our training opportunity list for this year. So since we really haven't had any training, is there any training that you see coming up between now and the end of the year?
I haven't explored that, but one easy avenue is just to go to the Office of Historic Preservation and see what they're offering.
So is that what you're suggesting to the board that
That's what I
they
would
could do?
I would just go to that website, California Department of Historic Preservation, Office of Historic Preservation, and take a look at their training or conferences and whatnot.
And Matthew did send us emails about possible training.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful if I pulled up that spreadsheet?
If they want, what the spreadsheet is a history of each goal, starting from when I first compiled this.
I don't know if I have that most current version. When did you last play with this?
It was when I sent it to you for
Last week or the week before?
no, in March for the April meeting,
Oh,
because I was expecting to be here.
okay.
So maybe you have the spreadsheets too,
Yeah,
because basically I like you to kind of make sure I've got it, everything's complete. Yeah, there they are. So, there, and you've got them all,
Good.
okay.
so you can see the different trainings that we've had, or if we didn't have any.
Is this okay
So-
to be shared with the public or not?
Yeah, yeah, it's just, it seems like a lot of paper for them,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
you just update this matrix
yes,
on an as-needed basis.
well, after every meeting.
After every meeting, yeah.
Cause we do this at every meeting, and then from the updates, I create the spreadsheets, or I mean the PowerPoint slides.
I just wasn't sure I could.
So I bring this for me to take notes on. So, yeah, if you wanna go down to the bottom,
Matthew, in the packets that were sent out, these were always included. So that people could take a look first, and then that makes this section of the meeting go faster.
Good, got it.
so in the column B, it's, you know, what was done, C is any activity, and then D is action items, motions, things like that.
Right.
So, yeah, so when you go back,
Okay.
you will see over there in the bottom corner about action item, that, that's when, Kevin and I were going to go talking. So he was going, Kevin was gonna talk to Sandy and I was gonna talk to Frank, and then report back at the April. So, but then, we never really got together as a subcommittee.
So I'm
Because-
gonna capture this, and I'm gonna send it to everybody after our meeting today.
Great.
Okay, so, all right, so basically, you know, I'm just gonna put in here that you sent out, the OH. Whatever it is, P, website and the online training classes that are there, and that we should continue to, monitor that.
You'll do that as an update?
I'll write that, yes, that's the update.
Got it.
So, So then, goal number 2, cleanup of the inventory. And from our discussion here, it looks like that might have been covered by,
9,
so 9F.
9F, yeah, 9F, but we talked about it earlier than that.
So, and also, so that would be,
It also came in under
8G.
8G.
8G and
That's
9F. So then, the action items on this one. Would be. That at the October meeting, we're going to be discussing, about, so it looks like we've got a few different things. We've got one discussion of the DPR form. And, information to put on that. And then, also talk about going out and getting photographs and updating the photographs.
So what you're telling us orally right now is information you're gonna put in the matrix?
Yes,
And if you do that, if you put that information, what you're saying right now, you're gonna put in the matrix, put it in a color form. Because when I send this out electronically, we'll be able to quickly see the difference between the black and white text and the stuff that you're putting in right now, or the stuff you're gonna put in tomorrow or the day after.
so you mean color code the latest entries?
Or use track changes. You know how to use?
But I have dates. So
You just
there's
put it
dates on the
there.
left,
Oh, the
There.
dates,
the meeting dates,
right,
and
okay,
it's always at the bottom.
I see what you're saying, yeah,
And then the action items I put in bold.
okay.
So right now, we're still on item number 2, this is the in.
Right.
inventory.
Goal number
Right,
2,
goal number 2, right,
goal number 2.
okay, so we're getting into more levels of sub detail.
It looks like it because cleaning up the inventory
Yeah, it's the old,
covers
right.
photos,
Yeah,
because there's
yeah, sure does.
information.
Sure does.
And now we're talking about
DPRs,
exchange with the,
updating the DPRs,
in the DPR form. So
right?
that's
and
a
the
third different
Right.
issue.
Great,
And I'm still a little unclear on that, because it sounds like we are making some changes, but it's just for us, and it's really on the outside of the form itself, at the very top, or something, we're not changing the form,
correct.
so,
We're enhancing the layout of the current form. Or better yet, embellishing.
okay,
So I do see some progress happening in this. Yes,
yeah. Yeah, cause last year we were talking about, last December, we were talking about scanning the DPR forms. So it looks like on that one, task 1 on, that we talked about last December, you've got Donovan scanning them in.
yep,
So, and the TBD was January, but it sounds like I can put on here that at this meeting, you reported it's being done.
No, it's in progress.
In progress, that's right.
It's been scanned and it's now being,
Organized.
yeah, categorized, organized.
It's being done too.
Yeah.
Mark Stewart.
Well, shoot, then maybe I should be working with you when I put this together. So
I
then,
won't be offended.
cause that's it, I'm making notes, but you've got the recording that you can go back and verify. So goal 3A is demolition and partial demolition. So, all right, so in October last year, it said staff will bring 2 new demolition ordinance code amendments for us to vote on.
Ha,
And then in December, you're making some changes. County will provide additional language for demolition ordinance code amendments. So,
We're a little bit behind.
Now, yeah, however, you didn't make those commitments. Those were made before you.
Yeah.
So, nobody wants to force feed you. You've got a full workload. You gotta figure out how you can fit that into what you're doing.
exactly.
so.
So it ebbs and flows, the work on it ebbs and flows, and right now it's in a flow path.
Because we've seen the language that has been getting looked at and massaged and that for both, for demolition and partial demolition. So, so as it says there, waiting for county to take action. So do you want to say for this? For this, a meeting that basically it's, you're still working on it, still
Yeah.
being worked? And
Date uncertain, but still working on it,
bring to the board TBD?
to be determined,
Yeah, that when you have it ready, you'll bring it to the board,
yeah.
okay?
I feel like we got the update today on 9D that Matthew has researched
Yeah.
other ordinances.
Yeah. Compile all sorts of files into my demolition folder that I've been.
And ironically, what I see happening is that we are having forward motion, but what happens is in the items of the agenda that precede the goals, that's where we move forward. Then we get to the goals as the last item where we're logging these changes. And this is a very important document. It's our guideline.
3A too. This one. 3A and then 3A.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else you want to say about that?
Nope, nothing more to be said about 3B, tracking demolition by neglect. It's ongoing. Whatever I said under 3A applies to 3B. And number 6, historic resources webpage.
We have that, but I think it needs a little bit.
And Linda and I earlier said that we formed a subcommittee to review it.
I'm sorry, let's go over.
Okay.
6.
We're on goal number 6, the historic resources webpage.
Sorry, I printed out 5, which was the Mills Act, and I did not get number 6.
But
So,
we have it, no?
yeah, you've got it 6, so let me just make a note here.
And what we discussed earlier was that the subcommittee that was you and me
Yeah.
would reactivate now that the work was done on the county side. And we would revisit and review the current webpage. For the purpose of complete information and easy access to the public.
We talked about that under which item?
That was number.
We fit it in,
That was under G, 8G.
yes, it was.
Cause it got into it with talk about support from volunteers. So how do we have things out there and, get people interested when they wanna know more about us, and we point them to the website. So we wanted to see,
So using the web page as a way to attract volunteers and interested people is how we segued into it.
So this is, the subcommittee is the action item, yeah?
the action would be, subcommittee reactivate. Oh, okay, you're typing it in. So, yeah, so, reactivate subcommittee. And then,
To review HR, HRC webpage.
Sure, that's well stated. Thank you.
Got it.
Good, great, yeah. Very good, okay. Well, we have covered the items that were set to review. Regarding goals, Linda, do you have any further contributions or comments?
no. No, so next, at the next,
That was an assertive no, I have to say.
so we'll review the complete list of goals.
Yep. And that's what we'll be doing every meeting. All or most parts of the goal.
Okay. We would end up getting a discussion on some of the goals. And so that's why it kind of got pared down to what was the most active,
Mhm.
and then just do a complete
Kind of
review of the
rotate through
year.
different ones in different meetings so that in the course of a year, we've covered everything that's on our goals list.
And so you want me for the packet, you want to have both or just the spreadsheet?
Meetings, yeah.
You think just the
I'm sorry,
spreadsheet
you were
will be
saying-
most?
You were saying what?
So for the packet, including the spreadsheets would be the most of use for the
Yeah,
commission?
Yeah,
Okay, and don't worry, and then the PowerPoint slides are just for you? Or do you think we can just do it from the spreadsheets?
I think we can just do it from the spreadsheet.
Okay.
I do too.
Yeah, worked out fine.
And it's, you'll be that much less diluted, Linda. You don't have to worry about the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I
Okay,
mean, about the PowerPoint. This works well.
well, you've got the history
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
So, and so I try to put in when there's no meetings, so no one thinks that I've forgotten or left out
And Andy,
anything.
your level of involvement being tight and close like this is so helpful. It's infinitely more efficient.
Too bad I'm leaving you guys. But I'll pass it on, for sure.
Okay, what's
You're
next?
showing us a new style that we can
Yeah,
keep
no,
going.
and I will train Donovan, you know, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, so that completes old business item 9G. Okay, so we now move to item 10, commissioner presentations and informational items. Anybody have anything they wish to contribute at this time? Very good. Matthew, I'll turn it over to you for a staff update.
I don't think I have one. Everything I needed to say, I put in the agenda under new business and old business.
Very good. Moving to item 12, written communications, again, today were in the body of the agenda items. So it would be silly to hold them back for this late period in the meeting. So there's no extraneous communications that bring up any new topics for this meeting. Okay? Review of items for future agendas. This is something that we added last year that gives us a look forward at our next meeting and gives each of you a chance to name anything that you want to make sure gets included on the next meeting agenda. I would suggest to you that tentatively, we would have, Matthew, tentatively, we would have a budget presentation be deferred from this meeting to our next meeting, so let's name that.
Do you know the contact person at Ma?
Yes, the contact person I would think we would want to reach is Rob Wolf, Executive Director,
Got it.
WULFE.
Completely different spelling from what I was using.
Right,
That's why you spelled it out. Thank you. Okay.
okay, so any other, future agendas? Yes, I'll be reporting back, on the Redmond House.
In that form of the letter.
Yes. Including the letter, to Matt and any response that I get and such as that,
Yeah.
to pull everybody else up to the progress we can make in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
It may include, more information from Jacob Stone too.
Mhm.
Maybe just give us an update on the grant. Next meeting as well, so.
Yeah, that'll be, yeah, well, definitely, you'll get an update prior to that
Okay, cool.
by email.
Hopefully we'll have good news and we'll have to discuss it more.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping. So I have that you'll be going through the steps to dislist a property from our inventory.
Mhm.
And,
I'm gonna bifurcate that, explain delisting, in context with structure no longer in existence. And then in the context of a structure that does exist, but it's
Yeah.
so far gone for whatever reasons.
Maybe as commissioners, we can be proactive and start maintaining a list of properties in our districts that will fall under that. I know a couple in Aptos that need to be removed already, that are no longer there.
oh, really? Cause I know when we talked to Annie. And, cause we were concerned with the CCU fire.
Mhm.
And we asked her about, buildings that were gone now and not on the inventory. I think Alba was the only one she brought up.
That's right.
So if you know some others,
There's the Seabreeze Tavern in Real Mark for one of them that burnt down a few years back.
well, I know we just discussed that, but
But we never took an action to delist it. It's still
No.
on the list and the building it's leveled to the ground and it's still on the inventory.
But I think it was left open because there was discussion of doing some kind of plaque and this kind of thing. And I think that was gonna wait until the whole issue was completed.
So
But-
I'm gonna present on, like I said, bifurcated, those buildings that no longer exist, like the Seabreeze Cafe, Alba School, whatever else, and then, how do we operate under the normal conditions where it built normal? How do we deal with buildings that still exist, but
Okay.
who knows, walls have collapsed or.
So should any part of this or somehow put all together be a goal? I.e. establishing, you said you have a procedure already for delisting them.
Yeah, our code, yeah.
Do we need to, like you say, put together some kind of list? Or I don't know
I
about,
think that falls under goal number 2 of inventory cleanup.
okay,
Yeah, good point.
It would be another letter under inventory cleanup. We had a series of different things that we named. We could include it.
okay.
I'm gonna verify section 2.38.120, whether or not there's wiggle room to allow the discussion about chair and vice chair, the 2-year cycle and whatnot.
So I've got something here about the county website, what's there. I got photo start date and I have down when with a question mark. So I'm not sure if that was all together, putting photos on the website.
We didn't say. No, taking the photos is item 8G, and considering a start date is under 8G. And then the actual taking the photographs and putting them on our website is another exercise. That's gonna be an in-house exercise. The stuff that's outside is gonna be going out with the photograph, taking photographs. Commissioners and whoever you can gather about.
Commissioners and volunteers.
Yeah,
But we didn't set a start date yet.
No, and we did not, say anything about our subcommittee reporting back to the board, because we haven't gotten together yet. Do we want to do that in October? Do we want as a beginning, or do we want to wait until April? Till we have time to get in there and do more thoroughly evaluate the website?
Good question.
are we back to the start date for photos?
No, we're on website,
Okay,
because we're a subcommittee to evaluate how user-friendly it is
right,
regarding the HRC and information about it.
we can start anytime, start.
Couldn't they ask to add to the agenda if you feel like there's something to present to us? We don't have to put it on right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct, but yeah,
I made a note for myself to get on the website and see how user friendly it is, but it sounds like that's a job for the subcommittee, so.
It is, well, a subcommittee can only have two people on it,
Right.
but we would appreciate your insights.
Okay.
you sure you don't want to work with Kevin?
Well, if you feel, are you too busy? Should Kevin and I do this?
I'm trying to think of what's going on.
Because, you know,
We're getting some home improvements done, new siding, new windows between now and the meeting. And I'm gonna be out of town for a while. So,
Kevin, you wanna, join the subcommittee? You and I will look at the website?
Sure.
All right,
I mean, it's only 20 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look out for.
well, no, not to do a thorough one, because we spent a few hours going through it, and we were on the phone together.
Yeah.
And he was going, and I wasn't finding what he was finding, and it
There were
was,
two different
it-
sections.
yeah.
When in the old method, there was HRC stuff in two places.
Yeah,
yeah, so I mean, it
I hope
takes
that's
a
not
while.
the case. We don't have HRC stuff in two.
Well,
When did you do this research?
It was, before the work was done on the website.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, it was last year.
And then we decided to stop.
It's much better now, but Fernanda and I noticed it's still difficult to make your way down the path.
Well, let me ask you this then, realistically, any suggestions that we come up with? Because they've just spent all this time and money reformatting it, redesigning it. Is it gonna go anywhere, or is what's there there?
Depends on what it is. Well, for example, what's there is there, yes and no. So we looked at the planning area app. Was it Aptos? I think we looked at Aptos planning area. It's got assessor's parcel number. Most addresses associated with assessor's parcel number. What else did we have in those columns? Anyway, some of the addresses weren't in there for whatever reasons,
Yeah,
but that's all you get. You don't get the DPR form. We haven't put that in there because that's still an exercise that's lingering. But
well, I think we were coming from, how do you even find HRC when you're at the history table? You said, oh yeah, the HRC's on the website, and all they know is Santa Cruz County. Where do they go from there? How easy is it to find?
In other words, okay, there's a couple, there's layers of complication. First of all, the HRC used to be contained within the former planning department. A traditional structure. This is a new hybrid structure with, infrastructure and services being combined. The combining of the two departments. So that's the first thing that complicates things. The second thing that complicates things is that the, information for all commissions is in one spot. And then we drill down to the particulars for the HRC, but both parts are valid. There's this all commissions section that sets up the county's guidelines. And then there's the specific section that sets up the HRC's guidelines. And we basically have to adhere to both, the general county ones and then the specifics that apply to us. But if you just read our section, then if you just on the HRC section, you don't see the thing about the chairman and the vice chairman changing every year. That's in the general section.
The
All
bylaws.
commissions, the bylaws for all commissions. So.
Section 2.38.1.
That's right. So anyway, okay,
But I think what would be helpful is that in our particular section, there would be a note on the website that you see when you go into the HRC that says, we also have to conform to the general regulations and bylaws for all county commissions. So be aware.
And then I had something here about talking about volunteer recruitment.
Have we covered that already in the other elements?
Well, I don't think it was,
We spoke of that. in the
Yeah.
Context of taking photos, and I have that right now in my.
okay,
About start date for photos. You can start this afternoon. You can figure out what planning area you wanna go for, or what district you wanna go for, which is gonna probably have overlap, because how many planning areas do we have? A dozen or 15 planning areas? And then the districts overlap multiples of planning areas.
Right.
But we're organized in our files, we're organized by planning area. Our inventory is all planning area based.
well, I think this was just general volunteer recruitment. Like if they wanted to help at the history fair or, something else.
It's. in
You know,
general,
because we talked about doing a separate Gmail email. And whether to get a brochure or maybe a two-sided card
you
to
don't
hand
need-
out.
You don't need a volunteer, or to.
to
create-
recruit
Oh,
volunteer.
I see.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
I think that sounds like future business and it might even be a future subcommittee.
so that's what I have on the agenda for the next meeting.
Good.
So that's my thing. That's what I wrote down.
But I want to pause here for just a second regarding 8G, and that's consider setting a start date for taking new photos. I think we've all agreed that it's important to get the photos of our inventory. And when we do that, we'll probably find that some buildings have changed dramatically, maybe some buildings are no longer there. So you're taking notes on this, you're gonna need the, inventory update form. So I'm taking a note here about sending it out to you guys. But if you can independently get something started with photographs, I would go for it. And if you want to talk amongst yourselves about working on collaborating with Cabrillo College or UCSC or Santa Cruz High School or whatever else is around here, history professor at whatever school, and try and get a volunteer kid or a college student to participate in this process, it'd be useful to get started ASAP. And we can just filter all that or bleed all that work effort or meter all that work effort over the next year.
I'm gonna, share a thought and make, share a thought that could be a suggestion if it works for any of you. I've come up with an idea. You've all heard me mention the community bridges and their survey, the Santa Cruz Like Me survey, which was surveying the community of the commissioners to get the profile of the commissioner. At any rate, I'm gonna go to that organization And I'm gonna see if I can pull my volunteers from within a community nonprofit. Okay, they might be interested in considering themselves my partner in a better understanding of the inventory of historic properties in Pajaro Valley. That seems like it would be very appealing, and let them find the student for me. That way the student's reporting, not reporting to me, I don't want to be the disciplinarian, he's got to report to them. And they have to want to look good with me. So I'm gonna go into a local nonprofit and see if I can generate some volunteers. And there's one more thing, and that is this. Kevin has his inventory right there. Do each of you have your copy of your inventory? Because without it, you can't visit sites.
Right. Right.
I've got the entire county.
Oh,
So did you create your own district? We already had it?
Yeah,
I've never even-
Where did you get your copy?
I've never used that
I
platform.
think it was given to me when I met with Andy, but I've
That's
had
what
a
I think
copy,
so too, I believe.
I've had a PDF saved to my computer for 20 years now, because I was able to find it years ago when I was researching other items.
I actually still having problems getting the DPRs. You had sent me a file and I need to talk to you about that because I follow it privately. I still can't get the
Yeah.
DPRs for the Davenport and North Coast area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I would love to get a PDF of District 5. I got mine from Barbara and they're all paper, so I've got a binder like this and then another one like that, and
I'm
they're
wondering,
all getting torn out and
Yeah,
stuff.
because these have not been updated forever, I'm assuming these are the most up to date, but I could also be wrong.
No,
I'm wondering if the by district collection is in hard copy only. I don't recall ever saying electronic copy of.
I believe there are electronic copies. I believe Annie has printed them out and given them to new commissioners
Based on district.
based on district.
I somehow found one online years ago.
I've
I've
only found this information in organized by planning area. So apparently I'm going down the
I
wrong
wonder
route.
if Stephanie would be a good resource for that.
Our Stephanie,
Yeah.
no,
Because she worked with Andy back years ago, maybe when they were fighting.
it wouldn't matter. It would be where I work. It would be, I don't mean physically with my desk.
No, I understand, in
It
the
would be
computer,
my,
where you work, right,
yeah,
sure, sure.
electronic format. So I'll have to check that, okay?
But did you mention the Historic Resources Commission started in 1994?
I believe that, yeah, the commission structure entirely, I believe, was put in 94. I believe that we went to a county advisory commission structure in 94. And I believe that the Historic Resources Commission may have actually been a trigger because they had to work on the inventory in advance from 94 to be able to publish it in 94. They couldn't do this in a matter of weeks or months.
But I don't know where.
I think it got started around 87 and that they were done and they had a full inventory and
Okay,
they launched the inventory. And at around the same time, they launched the entire commission structure.
okay. Yeah, some of these dates go back to 19, okay.
most
No,
of,
I'm saying, okay, the newest date that I see on some of these items is 2003, so it must have been updated around
Yeah.
that time.
Okay, that bingo, that's starting to make sense to me.
see now, I've got the same thing.
19.
Back page,
Yeah,
all this kind of stuff.
I think the research started.
Needs to be updated.
it does, it
And
does.
the ones that say, oh, yes, it should be applied,
And
it's like, it needs to go back.
for, I think it's starting here.
Yeah.
This is-
So you can see it goes for.
Yeah.
You know, it was established.
Andy Murphy
It was for 17 years. So I think you can go back
Wow.
and see a point at which things change.
Good.
All right, well, I believe that we have completed our agenda. And I believe that we have a really great running head start for creating our next meeting agenda. I think that this last point, this item 13 of reviewing for the future is really helpful. So, let me note one thing. Everybody worked really well together today, and without the MA presentation, we're ending at 12:30. It was a 3-hour meeting. So if we can all bring our most effective and efficient selves to the next meeting and try to go through the agenda items, as succinctly as possible, that'll be very helpful. But thank you, everybody. I would like to call the meeting, to closure. Good.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting
Thank you,
at
Linda.
12:32.
Second,
Second,
great.